Brighton are gearing up for an exciting season with an exceptional summer transfer window that has bolstered their squad significantly. With Fabian Hürzeler replacing Roberto De Zerbi as the manager, the Seagulls look more formidable than ever. Hürzeler is poised to take Brighton to the next level, building on the club's recent success and setting them up as a true force in the Premier League. Here's how you can go ahead and recreate Brighton's tactics in FC24. So judging from the bits and pieces of the preseason that I did see, as well as the first game of the season, Brighton have set themselves up in a 4-2-3-1 system under the likes of Fabian Hürzeler. Now this system can adapt and shift into a 3-back system, having the likes of the right back and the 2 centre-backs, or the left back and the 2 centre-backs, formulate a very solid back 3 when building out their attacks. Or alternatively, when out of possession of the ball, they do tend to set up in a 4-4-2, where you may see some pressing, but more so Brighton under Hürzeler are more concerned with their natural defensive structure, making it very difficult for the opposition to go ahead and try and break them down. As we take a look at the tactical approach for Brighton under their new manager, the tactical vision should be set to wing play. Players such as Matoma, Minter, and even Adingra were vital to the success of this attack, looking to stem a lot of the attacks down the wider flanks. This meant that a lot of central space was generated for the deeper lying midfielders, the number 10, and even the likes of Danny Welbeck, who was deployed as the striker. As we take a look at the defensive approach for Fabian Hürzeler's Brighton side, it is somewhat different. Roberto De Zerbi's Brighton would press and probe and be very assertive and aggressive when out of possession of the ball, looking to create mistakes and missed opportunities in the opposition's back line. Now, for the likes of Fabian Hürzeler, he does deploy a drop-back type system, looking to regroup into its natural shape and make sure it's very difficult for the opposition to go ahead and try and break down that shape. Now, there will be some pressing in the central zones, and even now and then you might see the likes of a João Pedro, a Ruta potentially, or even the striker in Ferguson or Welbeck. They might look to, maybe press and probe a little bit against the opposition's backline, but more so, Hürzeler's side is more focused on trying to regain its shape and make it very difficult for the opposition to go ahead and try and play through them. The team's width is going to be set to 75, which is quite a wide stretch defensive approach. Hürzeler's side versus Everton did allow a few gaps and spaces to appear in the central zones, but they were very good at being able to defend the wider zoned areas, looking to prevent crosses or cutback opportunities from those wider regions of the field, but also matching up in a man-v-man type pressing structure and system, making sure that it was very difficult for the likes of Everton or any of the teams that they played in pre-season to really be able to establish a wider attacking outlet. Fabian Hürzeler does prefer to play his side in a mid-block approach, and that is exactly why the depth is going to be set to 60. This will encourage the centre-backs to get up the field in certain moments, play those line-breaking passes, play those potential long balls further forward into the flank regions, but also it will protect the centre-backs, as the centre-backs currently at Brighton aren't really gifted when it comes to pace. So the recovery pace isn't always going to be there, and therefore they can be exploited. So if you do play the side in a hard line, which you saw multiple times last season under Roberto De Zerbi, they can be exploited with just a bit of pace in behind. So Fabian Hürzeler will therefore go ahead and try and prevent that by deploying them in a mid-block. Now, we will see a lot of key similarities between De Zerbi's Brighton as well as Hürzeler's Brighton, and I do think that that is a key reason why Fabian Hürzeler was approached for the Brighton job to replace the likes of Roberto De Zerbi, because they do have very similar ways of attacking, and you will see very similar shapes and patterns formulate when this Brighton team do play. So for the build-up play, I have set this to slow build-up as well as a possession-based chance creation. You are looking to play possession football, building out from the back, playing it from the goalkeeper to the centre-backs and progressing it further forward. But both the likes of Verbruggen as well as Jason Steele are very talented and gifted when it comes to playing those longer passes very accurately into the forward line. So there is always that plan B type approach. But more times than not, you will see a solid formation formulate with a back 3 of either the fullbacks of the left back or the right back tucking in and formulating it, whilst the other one tucks into the midfield or advances further forward. And you will see a solid system formulate. Now, essentially, De Zerbi was famed for his box formation, having the striker and the number 10 drop in and formulate a 4-man midfield. And you will see very similar situations like that with the likes of João Pedro, Danny Welbeck, or whoever you have deployed in those 2 roles. They will look to formulate that box formation in a Fabian Hürzeler system, looking to combine very effectively with the likes of your 2 deeper lying midfielders. And that in turn will also allow the 2 wingers to attack from the wider zones and also invert and be a bit more of an inverted forward, looking to attack and get onto the more dominant foot and then pop off shots and be a bit more of an attacking outlet for the side. The offensive width for this team is going to be set to 70. Now, this can range between 90 and 70. I do know that Fabian Hürzeler does prefer having a lot of stretch and a lot of width in his attacking outlet going forward, looking to try and draw the opposition into those wider flanks. But due to the fact that João Pedro, the likes of Danny Welbeck, and even James Milner and Vifa were very involved in the central play against Everton, I have set this to 70 just to make sure that you aren't completely out wide all the time. As you'll see here for the players in the box, I have set this to 7, allowing for at least 3 to 4 players to be in and around those attacking zones. As very similar to Roberto De Zerbi, Brighton do tend to try and fire in a lot of cross or cutback situations into the box for the strikers or the attacking players to get onto and put the ball in the back of the net themselves. Finally, the corners as well as the free kicks will be set to 4. As we take a look at the individual player instructions, we'll start off at the back with the goalkeeper in Jason Steele, and I will say this, the likes of Verbruggen will also maintain the same instructions. Starting off with the saving on crosses being set to balance, both of the goalkeepers aren't really physically superior in the air and will quite often stay in their line and have the centre backs try and deal with the aerial pressures. But the most important thing for a Fabian Hürzeler system, a Graham Potter system, and a Roberto De Zerbi system has been the role of the sweeper keeper, having them play very high up, making sure that they are trying to cover just and behind the back line, but also being able to play out from the back and be very important in that first phase build-up play, making sure that they are very confident when under pressure from the opposition. The role of the centre-back under Fabian Hürzeler will be no different from what we have seen from Brighton in the past. They'll be very important in being able to try and play out from the back, very important in that first phase build-up, but also very good with their passing range and also calm and composed under pressure. So as you'll see here for Van Hecker as well as Dunk, they'll be set to their base role and instructions. Now this will be applied to any of the centre-backs deployed in the team, whether it's Igor or Webster or another centre-back that you might look to bring in. They'll all be set to their base instructions. The two fullbacks in Veltman as well as Hinchelwood were deployed versus Everton, and they did a very good job. Now Veltman was allowed to attack a little bit more, with Hinchelwood being the player that does tuck into the midfield as well as the backline areas and try and form that back 3 system or that midfield 3 in brief moments, as well as Veltman did have a nice mixed role of either bombing forward and helping overlap the likes of Minter, or staying further back and also helping to formulate that back 3 system in certain moments of the game. Now essentially for the role of Veltman, he'll be left on the balanced attacking runs support role, where he does look to get forward if the opportunities do present themselves, and when he does do that, you want him to overlap, consistently looking to provide the width when he does get forward down the right hand flank. Whereas the role of Hinchelwood as the left back, I have left him on the balanced set of instructions. If the opportunities are there, he will look to overlap or underlap the likes of Matoma, looking to provide width and attacking outlet down the left hand flank, but he can also, because he is more naturally a central midfielder, look to invert into the midfield zones, also looking to try and help provide a solid offensive platform alongside the likes of Milner and Vifa, and provide a good platform for the rest of the side to go ahead and build up off of. And speaking of the double pivot of Vifa as well as Milner, now for the likes of Vifa, he was more of the deep lying playmaker. He would often be very involved in that first phase build-up play, having the goalkeeper fire the ball into him for that first pass and then him laying it off into either the centre back or the fullback or further forward into the midfield zones. But for the defensive behavior, I have left him on balance, as he wasn't super proactive looking to try and break up the passing lanes and angles. Of course, he could provide and be a very good shield for the backline in brief areas of the field, but it wasn't really his game. More or less positioning himself in the correct spaces to try and break up the play. That was more or less what he was all about. Now, essentially, when the likes of Milner and João Pedro would function higher up the field, the likes of Mats Vifa was the deepest lying player in those central zones, so you want him to be able to stay back while attacking, as well as have normal interceptions. As I've just mentioned, he will be one of the key players when trying to establish that build-up play and be very involved in that first phase of the build-up, so you do want to be able to use him as the deep-lying playmaker, where he will be able to pop up in the half spaces, show for those shorter passes from the goalkeeper, and like I say, be very involved when building out your attacks from the back. Whereas his midfield counterpart in James Milner, and I must say the fact that they are linked with Matt O'Reilly does make me believe that Milner's role in the side will definitely diminish, but Matt O'Reilly will definitely be a much better fit for this team when trying to progress the ball further forward, as he is really good at being able to function in those tight confined areas of the field. So he will be a very good press resistance 6/8 that can venture further forward. So for the role of the right DM, he'll be set to cut passing lanes, a bit more of a proactive role for the right side, looking to try and break up the play, looking to try and intercept the play as much as possible. And for the attacking support, he will be the box-to-box player, looking to venture up the field, combine very effectively with the attacking midfielder and sometimes even the striker, and maybe even make those overlapping runs of the striker, you might say, because of course Welbeck will look to drop inside and help formulate that box. So For the role of Milner, he will be the guy that goes up and down and all around and looking to try and help out in every phase of the game. The interceptions will be set to normal, and then finally you will set him to drift wide as well as cover the wing, as he does tend to tuck into that right back role, especially if Veltman does tuck into a back three, or if Veltman does venture further forward. The likes of Milner was often seen in that wider right defensive space, but also looking to combine very effectively with Minter when Minter would look to drop inside. The role of the attacking midfielder in João Pedro will be set to maintaining a basic defensive support. This will help him drop quite deep, look to try and link the play between the deeper lying midfielders and the rest of the attack, or he can look to function higher up the field and not really come back on defense at all. Now, essentially for this role of João Pedro, he does tend to function as a secondary striker in brief moments, and that is due to the fact that you do want him situating himself in the box for those attacking movements or those cutback opportunities, and that is why he will often look to overlap the likes of Danny Welbeck, and you will see a nice interchange between who plays as the striker and who plays as the number 10. Now, with the positioning freedom, I have set him to drift wide. Now, due to the fact that James Milner will venture further up the field and be an attacking outlet in that wider right half space, João Pedro being set to drift wide will drift him out to the left-hand channel, looking for him to combine very effectively with Mitoma and Welbeck. Now, if the likes of Milner doesn't get up the field, and he does tend to stay back, you will see João Pedro operating in all different areas of the pitch, looking to drift into either the wide right or the wide left channels and combine very effectively and efficiently with the two wide playmakers. And then finally, the interceptions will be set to normal. For the role of Kaoru Mitoma deployed as that left midfielder, he will be set to maintaining a basic defensive support. Just like with João Pedro, he can choose at times to drop quite deep and help support in the wider spaces for the defense, or in brief moments he can choose to stay further up the field and be a bit more of a counter-attacking option in those more attacking zones. The transgression will be set to stay wide, as Mitoma does tend to function very well as that wider playmaker, looking to hug the touchline and operate along the wide flank regions. And for the support runs, now he is seen as a very direct attacking threat, looking to have those longer balls launched into him or making those runs in behind. But he can also have the ball knocked into him, hold up the play, and then drive at the opposition player, looking to try and take him on with a dribble or two. So that is why I have set him to balanced, whereas if you do set him to get in behind, he will always look to make those aggressive, assertive runs in behind without having the ball knocked into him and then trying to dribble at the opposition player. The interceptions will be set to normal, and then the support runs will be set to balance. At times, you might see Mitoma angling his runs to get into those attacking zones, getting on the end of the potential cross or cutback opportunity, or he can choose to facilitate those opportunities by whipping in a cross or a cutback for one of the attacking players inside the box. Now onto the opposite flank, and Minter in the first half was simply superb, and in the second half, Adingra carried on that with the attacking outlet down the right-hand side. Now for the defensive support, just like with João Pedro, just like with Mitoma, it will also be set to maintaining a basic defensive support, looking to try and create a few transition moments with having a few players higher up the field for those passing options. Now, essentially with Minter, he would choose to attack either the wider space or potentially the space between the fullback and the centre back. And essentially what you want to try and get him to do is alternate between those two areas of the field, and free roam does allow you to successfully go ahead and create that. Now, the right-hand side was one of the best attacking assets for this Brighton team, and that was due to the fact that either Adingra or Minter were consistently looking to make those penetrative runs in behind, whether they received the pass or whether they were just looking to draw the opposition out of their natural defensive shape. It tended to work more times than not, so you do want to set them to get in behind and have them using their pace to the team's advantage on a consistent basis. The interceptions will be set to normal, and then finally, just like with the left midfielder, you want him to also be set to maintaining a balanced crossing run, whipping in crosses or being the attacking outlets in the box to put that cutback into the back of the net. Now onto the role of Danny Welbeck, deployed as that centre forward / striker, and he could choose to drop into the midfield zones, helping formulate that box formation, opening up a lot more central space for the likes of a Minter, a Mitoma, or an Adingra to drift into and attack that central space themselves. Now, for the role of Danny Welbeck, he will look to stay central, be a very good focal point in the attack, but he will be set to playing as a false nine, having him drop quite deep, dropping into the midfield zones, playing almost as a secondary number 10, looking to interchange positions with the likes of João Pedro, but also the comeback on defense approach will have him dropping very deep in brief moments, looking to link up very effectively with the deeper lying midfielders. And there we go, my dudes. That is how I would successfully go ahead and recreate Fabian Hürzeler's Brighton tactics in FC24. I do hope you have enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to smash that like button. And if you are new and you've just come across my content, or you are thinking about it, please go ahead and hit that big red subscription button. It would help a lot. We are on the road to 10,000 subscribers, which would be absolutely goddamn fantastic. As well as if you have a Discord and you are not joined up just yet, we have a Discord server where we chat everything FC24, everything FC25, real life football, and all that good stuff. So the link will be down below in the description. Go ahead, click that, join up with the conversation. Anyways, until the next time, until the next one, I hope you guys have a smashing goddamn day, and I'm out of here. Peace.